It's time now then for a look at some of today's business news, and for that I'm joined on set by our business editor, Brian Quinn. Hello, Brian.
Hello.
You're going to be staying then with one of our top stories today, the situation with these strikes and the ongoing discussions between the government and the unions. The government then today putting out some new maths to try and justify that pivot age. Tell us a bit about it.
Right, pivot age, of course, as we talked about, the main sticking point between the government and unions. Well, on Friday, the government released a study showing projected budget savings for the plan. The idea being those who retire early would lose 5% of their full pension for each year before they turn 64. The government says that should bring 10 billion euros into pension coffers in 2025, 12 billion euros in 2027. That's the date they've fixed for France's pension system to finally break out of deficit territory. That pivot age, though, has been a red line for unions. They've floated other ideas like tapping Social Security reserve funds or forcing high earners to raise their contributions. The president of France's top business lobby, though, said Friday any reform must include a hike of the retirement age. Here it is.
We continue to believe that a measurement of age is absolutely essential, and that is what we will say in future discussions on funding methods.
Next, U.S. plane maker Boeing has released some rather embarrassing internal communications around its troubled 737 MAX jet program. One exchange characterized the MAX as, quote, designed by clowns who are supervised by monkeys. The plane has been grounded worldwide since 2 deadly crashes last year. Those messages were handed over to U.S. lawmakers amid an ongoing investigation. The messages include open acknowledgement of design problems and mockery of government regulators. Shirley Sitbon has the details.
They've been called incredibly damning. The messages exchanged by Boeing employees over the 737 MAX airplane and its safety flaws point to the company's approach to the crisis. They show safety problems had been flagged long before the 2 crashes that killed 346 people, and the tone used is often disparaging.
Would you put your family on a MAX simulator-trained aircraft? I wouldn't.
No.
This airplane is designed by clowns, who in turn are supervised by monkeys.
Some employees discuss downplaying the plane's flaws when reporting to regulators. The messages show attempts to dodge scrutiny and the company's efforts to avoid pilot simulator training to cut costs. Boeing says it has released the documents to be transparent, adding that now it is confident that all of Boeing's MAX simulators are functioning effectively. The Federal Aviation Administration has said the messages do not raise new safety concerns.
While the tone and content of some of the language contained in the documents is disappointing, the FAA remains focused on following a thorough process for returning the Boeing 737 MAX to passenger service.
The planes have been grounded since March 2019. Boeing will have to pay airlines who have had to cancel thousands of flights. The company has decided to halt construction of the plane mid-January. It will also have to compensate victims' families. Boeing hopes that once the planes are allowed to fly again, it can start recovering from the crisis. But the FAA has warned against any attempts to try and speed up the process.
Boeing shares down nearly 2% on that latest hit to its reputation. Here in the EU, indexes fell at the close as the U.S. slaps fresh sanctions on Iran. Markets had gained earlier on what looked like easing tensions between the two countries. London, Paris, and Frankfurt all down in the neighborhood of 0.1% at the close. U.S. indexes lost ground across the board Friday as investors take in a disappointing U.S. jobs report. The Americas added 145,000 non-farm jobs in December, down from over 250,000 in November. Unemployment holding steady at 3.5%. The Dow briefly broke the 29,000-point mark for the first time ever before falling back to end the day down nearly 0.5%. S&P and NASDAQ down over 0.25% each. Analysts say that the weak jobs report is normal for this stage in the cycle. Take a listen.
At this stage of the economic expansion, we expect hiring to slow. The job market's tight. The unemployment rate is at 3.5%. It's harder for employers to find well-qualified workers at this point.
And finally, for business, Friday marks the end of the annual Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. The big theme this year, the changing nature of the screen, thinner, brighter, rolling, and especially folding. One hot item apparently, Lenovo's new ThinkPad X1, which the company is calling the first foldable PC, transforming from a 13-inch tablet to a screen half that size with a touch keyboard. Not available just yet, and when it is, it will not be cheap. Retail price set at $2,500. I'm sure they're hoping the rollout goes better than Samsung's Galaxy Fold smartphone. Its launch was delayed for months when screens on review copies began to break. Nadia, I've dropped my own phone so many times, the screen is broken. I think if a couple more times, I might be able to just fold it myself.
Yeah, who needs to spend all that
Save
money?
some money, right?
Absolutely. Brian, thank you very much indeed. Brian Quinn there with a look at some of today's top business news for you on the programme.